I'm often asked, how is Help You Sell different, and why is it better? It's a big question with lots and lots of answers because we are very different and better in many ways. But when I stand back and look at all the ways in which we are different and better, I really see only one thing: the consumer. It's in how we view and work with the consumer. Now, I want to be very simple here. I want to be like Denzel Washington in the movie Philadelphia. I want to explain it like we're all 6 years old. After all, the greatest truths are simple, aren't they? So, let's start with the consumer. Who is this person? Well, we're all consumers from time to time. We consume items offered to us by vendors who sell us either goods or services. We exchange an item of value, usually money, for the item offered by the vendor. This exchange is called a transaction. Now let's see this in action. Meet Bill. Bill has an apple to sell. He grew it himself. The first thing he needs to decide is what to charge for the apple. So he goes to the corner market, and he sees that apples there are selling for about 25 cents a piece. So he thinks, 25 cents? But I'm going to be offering this apple for sale right where I'm standing. The buyer can eat it right there. They don't have to go to the corner market and stand in line to buy it. That's got to be worth something. So he prices the apple at 30 cents. Now, look at what just happened here. Bill is quite the entrepreneur. He procured an item to sell, he grew it, and then he did extensive market research to decide what the value of the item was. And he even added an increment on top of that for a value-added feature. He's now ready to go to market. Meet Mary. She sees Bill and the apple and thinks, my, that looks good. How much, she asks. 30 cents, Bill answers. She thinks, 30 cents, that's a little high. I think they were running about a quarter in the corner market. But then I won't have to go all the way over there and stand in line if I buy this one, so great, I'll take it. Bill's happy. He sold his apple and got what it was worth. Mary's happy. She got a delicious apple and she didn't pay too much for it, all things considered. Now, I mention happiness because it is important in a consumer-vendor transaction. You see, this is a value-for-value exchange. The value of the apple, as offered, is exactly what the consumer pays. And if the transaction truly is a value-for-value exchange, everyone gets what he or she wants. So everyone leaves the transaction happy. Happiness is important. Now, what do you think Bill's going to do with his 30 cents? Well, I'll tell you. He's going to invest it in his education. He's going back to school to become a real estate broker. And here he is. Of course, the first thing he wants to decide is what to charge for his services. So, remembering his good experience as an apple vendor, he goes to the MLS and looks around at what everybody else is charging. And what does he see? That's right, more or less 6%. And this bugs him. He thinks, if I charge like everyone else, the person in the $300,000 house will pay $18,000 for my service, and the one in the $400,000 house will pay $24,000. And that flies in the face of everything I learned at the Harvard Business School. How can two different consumers pay vastly different amounts for the exact same service? Unfortunately, Bill's not very strong-willed. He's not one to buck the status quo. So when Mary shows up again, this time with a house to sell, he charges her 6%. Ouch, Mary thinks. So before she signs the listing agreement, she looks around at what other brokers are charging and decides that, well, 6% is awful, but it seems to be in line. So she goes ahead. But she's not happy. And she's not unusual. There has never been a home seller in the history of real estate that has been happy paying 6% to sell their home. No matter how much they love you, no matter how many glowing testimonials they write, when it comes time for closing and they look down at the commission line on the HUD-1 statement and see 6%, $30,000, they gasp inside. What the heck did I get for my $30,000? Now let's look at this transaction, the one between the consumer Mary and the vendor Bill. Mary is buying services from Bill. Is it a value for value exchange? Well, you should already know that it's not. Mary's unhappy. In a value for value exchange, she'd be delighted. So would Bill. No, it's not a value for value exchange, and it would never be. First, the value placed on Bill's services is not related to the services at all. It has nothing to do with the actual value of those services. It has to do with something external to this transaction going on between Bill and Mary. It has to do with the value of Mary's house, what she happens to be selling. Second, the value placed on Bill's services varies from customer to customer, not based on the quality or level of services offered, but on the value of that external thing out there, the house that needs to be sold. Do you see how absurd this is? In a value for value exchange, you would never base your fee on a percentage of something outside the exchange itself. It would be like saying, I'll charge you 65% of whatever the level of the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at the moment of closing to sell your house. But that's what ordinary real estate agents and brokers have been doing every day. It would be like going to your dentist to have a tooth filled and being billed 1% of your net worth. Or like going to the car wash and paying half of 1% of the current Blue Book trade-in value for your car. That 6% real estate commission looks so out of place in this consumer-vendor transaction that it doesn't look like a commission at all. What it looks like is Mary's giving Bill a 6% interest in her property. Of course, he has no risk or investment. Let's look at that for a moment from the consumer's perspective. Mary bought this house 7 years ago for $200,000. She put 10% down, $20,000. She's been in it just 7 years, so she's made a total of 84 payments of about $1,000 each. That's $84,000. Her total investment in the property so far is $104,000 plus maintenance. Today, her mortgage balance is $157,000 and the current market value is $250,000. So she has $93,000 in equity. Not bad. She's lived in the property 7 years and all it's cost her is $11,000. And that doesn't even take into consideration the tax advantages. Now, from Bill's perspective, he sees a $250,000 house at 6% commission. That's $15,000. But let me stop for a moment to point out that it may be 6% of the home's value, but it's more than 15% of her equity. The thing she's been building for 7 years. What's his investment? Zero? Well, the truth is he's probably going to spend a little bit of money on marketing before it sells, so there's that. Is he at risk? Could he lose anything in this transaction? Well, there's a little bit of legal risk for Bill, but that's why we have E&O insurance. Bottom line is that Mary's bottom line, after Bill, will be $78,000. You see, it's my opinion that any time a home seller signs a contract with an ordinary real estate agent agreeing to give up 6% of the sales price at closing, she's not just signing a listing agreement, she's taking on a 6% partner in the property, and one who has no risk and no investment. Help You Sell Real Estate changes all of that. By charging a low set fee for the services offered, the value for value aspect of the consumer-vendor transaction is restored. The value placed on the services is based on those services, not on some external variable. The fee is the broker's cost of performing the services plus a reasonable profit, not some nebulous percentage of something else. And of course, you can tell the Help You Sell real estate transaction is a value for value exchange because at the end of the transaction, everyone is happy. Sellers get what they want, a successful sale without paying an arm and a leg for it. Help You Sell brokers get what they want. Another sale, another fee, and another happy customer out in the marketplace singing their praises. It's a win-win. If you're an agent or a broker, you deserve to feel good about your real estate transactions. You should come out of closing not only proud of the service you offer, but also of the reasonable fee you charged. If you're charging $30,000 to sell a $500,000 house, or $24,000 to sell a $400,000 house, you've got nothing to be proud of. What you have is a fee structure that must constantly be defended, must constantly be justified. If you're a homeowner, you also deserve to feel good about your real estate transactions. The fee you pay your broker should be reasonable and based on the value of the services offered, not on some silly percentage. The only reason you're paying that percentage today is that you don't realize there's an alternative. But there is. And it's Help You Sell, the 21st century way to sell your home.